Hello everybody! Welcome back to the SBGamefun channel and to another episode of Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishment. Yes, we are still here in the apartment of Ryan, I think it's Ryan Turner? Mr. Turner? Yes, Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner. Alright, so I think we've, based on what I remember, we have completed, talked to Mr. Turner and checked the view from his flat. There should be something to explain his contradictory statements. I think we got it already. Investigate the ancient bracelet and find out. Okay. Interrogate Leighton. Investigate the crime scene and talk to witnesses. So we probably need to talk to somebody. Alright, so let's take a look at Mr. Turner here. Ryan Turner is around 60 years of age. He is a veteran of the Crimean War, a fact of which he is very proud. His leg was most likely injured during the war, and he has been limping since then. Mr. Turner lives a poor life. So that's probably why he attempted to commandeer the item, this antique bracelet. So in order to do that, we need to go to Baker Street to research it, but there's also something, because we're here right now, so let's finish up. I think there's some additional witnesses we need to talk to, so let's head back down. Oh, look at that lighting changed, kind of funky. Yeah, look at that. Out here it turned very warm. Alright, so do we need to talk to... We've already examined anything else you want to tell us?
It would be my pleasure to assist you with your investigation, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Holmes? Alright, so there was... Oh, Wiggins. Let's talk to Wiggins. Wiggins?
I'll do anything to save my brother, Mr. Holmes.
To save my brother, Mr. Holmes. Okay. Let's come out here. I think there was a person here. Somebody. I think it was... Yes. This young lady right here. Polly Powell. So let's chat it up with Polly.
Mrs. Powell?
What do you want?
My name is Sherlock Holmes. I'm assisting the police with their investigation of the crime that took place this evening.
Well, I've already gave my testimony, but very well.
Okay, so... Oh, there's no profile. So let's just talk to her.
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
Yes. I was selling my flowers as usual, and then the fireworks began, in honour of Queen Victoria. I enjoyed those. But then, all of a sudden, a young lad ran out of Half Moon Street and stopped just by me. He had a gun in his hand. He was like a ghost, and all covered in blood. It was dark, but I could see him, because of the flashes from the fireworks.
And then?
I screamed as loud as I could. I knew that a policeman should be on duty in the vicinity. He had no time to escape. 2 constables got him. Then another constable came out from the very same street, and I heard him talking of a horrible murder.
Did you hear any shots?
Mrs. Powell, did you hear the gunshots?
I'm not sure. You know, what with the fireworks?
Did you see anyone else?
Did you see anyone else leaving Half Moon Street, prior to or at the time of the crime?
No, sir, I did not. Even with all the fireworks, I was very attentive, as I'm always on the lookout for customers.
My thanks to you, Mrs. Powell.
Investigate the crime scene and talk to witnesses completed. So, thank you, Polly Powell. So there we go. So this is done. So now we need to interrogate Leighton and investigate the ancient bracelet and find out how it could have appeared at Half Moon Street. Okay. What first? Why don't we go and interrogate Leighton? Get his side of the story.
Mr. Holmes! Whatever brings you here so late at night?
I'm interested in the case of young Leighton Chapman. He was arrested earlier this evening and accused of a double murder.
I beg your pardon? That case is quite clear to the police. Or are there any new facts that we don't know about?
Who knows, Inspector?
Look, you are free to investigate, of course, Mr. Holmes. Chapman was arrested with a revolver in his possession, which you can find in the evidence room. The suspect himself is in custody.
Did you find anything else on his person?
A few personal belongings. Nothing particular, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Lestrade.
Okay, Lestrade. Thank you. So... oh my gosh, he's actually studying noses? The shape of noses. There are quite a variety of noses, but why would he have it on a chalkboard in here? That is weird. It's weird. Okay, so let's head to the evidence locker. There's evidence room here somewhere. Evidence room. Alright, so we have here is... good lord, that is noisy. Okay, so here are Leighton's belongings. Let's examine them. Okay, I know I'm probably going to be looking at that, so let's take a look at what we have.
A cheap watch, bought with his own money, no doubt.
Okay, and then there's an apple. Rolled cigarettes.
These cigarettes are filled with cheap tobacco. Nothing interesting.
Alright, so now we look at Leighton's gun.
So this is the gun that Leighton was holding when he was caught by the police. It is a Webley revolver, a reliable weapon.
Okay, so...
it seems as though the shells were not removed from the cylinder.
I can see them. So let's, oh, look at that. Look at that, 2 shots.
2 out of the 6 shells have been fired. There were 2 shots.
So, there were 2 shots. And it's giving me my deduction space here. So let's take a look at the deduction space. 2 victims. Leighton's revolver. Different shots. Okay, so what do we have here? Simultaneous shot. Turner could hear the contrast between the 2 fire shots as, in fact, 3 shots were made. At first, a single shot was fired, and then 2 guns fired simultaneously, directly afterwards. Firing position. Turner could hear the contrast between 2 fired shots as they were made from different points in Half Moon Street. Okay, so both of them, they both indicate that they can hear were made at first a single shot was fired, and then 2. This sounds like more likely. So let's mark this one. So let's go back. Oops, deduction space. Where's the deduction space? Leighton's revolver shows 2 bullets, spent shells. So simultaneous shots. A double murder. Kenneth Butler and Brian Vercotti were victims of a double murder carried out by one person. Alright. Space back to the clues. Didn't I already select this? Lootless. Leighton Chapman had nothing of any value in his possession when he was caught by the police directly after the crime. No. Common statement. Leighton Chapman is the only person who has seen entering Half Moon Street after Brian Vercotti and Kenneth Butler. He was Seen standing over the dead bodies and escaping the crime scene shortly afterwards. Okay, so none of these. Oh, what is this? Compelling evidence. The witness testimonies and the crime weapon clearly point to one possible culprit, Leighton Chapman. So let's go back. 2 victims. Let's just clear them all out. Alright, so we have cleared out all the clues that we could figure out in the deduction space. So let's go take a look, see what we need to do now. Solve the crime. Yep. Interrogate Leighton and examine his belongings at Scotland Yard. We have examined his belongings, and then there was a possible crossfire between Kenneth Butler and Brian Vercotti at Half Moon Street. Examine the dead bodies and perform a reenactment. Oh, that's what that little thing that popped up earlier. Okay, but before we do that, let's go ahead and interrogate Leighton Chapman. Mr. Chapman?
Please escort this suspect for interrogation. Good evening, Mr. Chapman.
Who are you? I've got nothing to say. It's all a mistake.
Calm down, Leighton. I have come here to help you. To find out if you truly are innocent, as your younger brother Wiggins has told me.
My brother? You know him? Then that means you're...
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, blimey. All right, Mr. Holmes. I'll tell you everything.
Alright, so let's take a look at his profile. He clearly has a major scar on his face. Deep scar. Grew up on the streets. Occasional fights. Yeah, that's occasional, alright. Shabby clothing, or whatever you want to call it. Fancy scarf. Downtown. Cushy job. Office clerk. Fancy scarf. Downtown fashion. Cushy job. So he got himself a job. Good. Look at that. A tattoo. Westgate Prison. Past imprisonment. Committed a crime. So that's how he... I think that guy, one of those guys, the dead guys had a tattoo. I don't remember if it was the Westcott or not. Okay, going back up again. There's something we missed. Oh, poor guy, he's been beaten up by the cops or something. Recent beating, resisted arrest. He's hot-headed. Alright. Leighton, tell us your story.
Good. Tell me your account of what happened.
I left my work, and I hurried up to see the fireworks in Whitechapel. I was late, so I decided to cut through Half Moon Street. I saw the first fireworks light up in the sky. I bumped into a constable on a corner before entering Half Moon. Then suddenly, what with all the firework flare, I saw 2 men. They were both lying flat in the middle of the street. I stopped where I was. I thought about turning back to the police, but as I was thinking of that, I saw a third person. He was leaning over the body that was furthest from me. The second I saw him, he raised his head, and he stared at me. In a flash, I saw his gun, but he made a dash for it instead, and he escaped through Whitechapel Street.
Time to return. What does that mean?
So you might still have had time to return to the constable. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I approached the bodies just to see if they were still alive. I saw that one had blood pumping out of his stomach. He was dying. It was horrible. The second one was already dead. He had a hole in his head. He was holding a gun in his hand though. I took it, and then I followed the third man.
Pray continue.
Interesting. Pray, continue.
I turned a corner, and I saw the man standing in the middle of the street. He seemed to be in some sort of panic. And then, Mr. Holmes, something strange happened. I told the police and they laughed at what I said, but I swear to you, my words are true. I started running towards him. But then I was blinded by a flash. It was so bright that I hardly saw anything for a good dozen seconds. But I kept running forward. As I arrived in Whitechapel, I heard a woman screaming. And then I was caught by the police. But there wasn't a trace of that man. Of course, then they found a gun and all that blood. I couldn't see the murderer escaping and all that mess. Perhaps I was still half-blinded at that moment.
A thrilling account, my young man.
The third man. Can you describe him?
Leighton, are you able to describe the person whom you saw standing in Half Moon Street?
Well, I wasn't able to see his face at all. It was too dark, and he was too far away. I could see his silhouette.
And what about that?
Nothing so special. He was wearing a jacket. He was quite average in size and his weight.
I see. Was there anything else that struck you at the time?
No. But perhaps... It's strange, but I can't remember the sound of his footsteps as he was running away. Perhaps it was because of the fireworks or the surprise of me seeing him.
Why follow him? You could have come back to the police.
Leighton, I confess I am puzzled. Why should a young lad like you take a gun from the hands of a dead man and set off in pursuit of a probable killer?
I know. I keep wondering that, but at the time it was like a reflex. A criminal ought to be arrested, and he was armed.
You were willing to risk your life. That was a little foolish, unless you wanted revenge.
No, Mr. Holmes. I was just being brave and stupid.
Okay, so he was just being brave, or he had some affiliations with Westgate prisoners.
I'm sure that you were, but I believe that you may have recognized one of the victims, Brian Vercotti. You knew that gentleman well, did you not?
However could you know that?
You have a typical tattoo of the Westgate Brotherhood upon your hand. I observed exactly the same mark upon Mr. Vercotti. You came to know him from your sharing a past prison sentence. Am I correct, Mr. Chapman?
Oh, God. You're right, Mr. Holmes.
Tell me about Brian Vercotti.
Would you tell me a little about Brian Vercotti?
We were convicted for a robbery. Once in prison, both of us joined one of these fraternities. During that year, we tried to help each other out, you know?
You were quite young then, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, we were. We'd only stolen a pound of meat. After we were released, and when I saw what my little brother had become, I decided to work towards living an honest life.
And Vercotti?
He had a hard time. His sister had died in a Whitechapel dispensary while he was in prison. He had no family anymore. Our paths split. He fell back into crime.
So you lost him?
Yes. And for around 2 years, I heard no news of him at all.
We shall see you soon, young man.
Alright, so we collected a whole bunch more. We've completed the interrogation and inspecting the belongings of Leighton. So let's take a look at the deduction space, see what else we acquired. Leighton's statements about his old acquaintance. Nope. About the two victims. Nope. Leighton Chapman stated that he saw a person leaning over a dead body just as he entered the scene. Leighton took a gun from the body and set off in pursuit of the man, but he was blinded by a flash of bright light. Okay, see, this, it doesn't do anything. Oh! This is confusing. Imaginary man. The person whom Leighton Chapman described in his statement is a figment of his imagination, created to vindicate himself. It could be. Old acquaintances, Leighton's. Lootless. Lootless and old acquaintance? I don't know how those associations. Personal motive. The violent crime committed in Half Moon Street by Leighton Chapman could have had a personal motive. He seems genuine, getting a job and so on and so forth, moving away from the life of crime because he wanted to help his brother, Wiggins. So I don't know if these are realistic. 2 victims. Yeah, this is already done. Alright, so we've cleared the deduction space, so what time do I have? I have only a handful of minutes left. Enough to... Oh, look at that. Let's see what it says. His profile. Leighton Chapman is in his 20s and is Wiggins' older brother. Growing up on the streets and being a hot-headed lad, he committed a crime for which he served time in Westgate Prison. He is currently detached from his past street life and is probably working somewhere as an office clerk. Poor guy. Alright, so let's make our way back to Baker Street. And while we're here, we can... Let's take a look here. Hold on. Whoops. What do we need to do? Investigate the ancient bracelet and find out how it could have appeared at Half Moon Street. Alright, so we need to research the bracelet. There we go. This is not chemistry. Oops, hold on. I didn't pay attention. Okay, this is not chemistry. Poisons or toxins, wounds or injuries, criminalistics, martial arts, marks and symbols. Religious symbols, skulls and crossbones.
That is not the one I need.
Ah, yes. Okay, so let's head over to newspapers. Electric Railway opens, bankruptcy. Fenian condemned of murder, Dawson and Nelgan bankruptcy. Okay, I don't think this is of any... Encyclopedia, Arts and Architecture. Institute of British Architecture. Antique Arts of the British Museum. How I think this might be it. Arts and Architecture. Economic Science. Technology. History. Medicine. Botany. Okay, so I think let's go back to Arts. Antique Art of the British Museum. There it is. These beautiful antique jewels represent a part of the Hellenistic treasure collections. Depicted are the 5 heads of mountain rams upon a bracelet, necklace, and ring, each made of pure gold. The 5 rams of Mytilene have been missing from the museum since 1885.
Here it is. I need to continue my research in my archives.
Okay, so let's go back and look at this here. Search the archives. A part of an ancient jewel set belonging to the Hellenistic treasure collections. They have been missing from the museum since 1885. Okay, so where would I search it? Okay, let's take a look. This is from 1885. Not in chemistry, not in toxins, not in wounds, not in criminalistics, martial arts, marks and symbols. Okay, so let's go over the news. Oh, look at that. Dates. 1885. Wellington burglary. Hellenistic treasures stolen. Look at that. The Hellenistic treasures were stolen yesterday evening while being transported by a cab on their way from the British Museum to the Glassford Fine Arts exhibition. Pawn shop owner Kenneth Butler contacted Scotland Yard that night and provided information regarding a gentleman who had attempted to sell him a collection of historical arts at his pawn shop in Church Street. The police have since captured the described man, a professional thief by the name of Vincent Foley, who had been in the process of escaping London via the port. He was recognized by the surviving driver of the cab that had transported the collection of Hellenistic treasures. Vincent Foley refused to confess as to where the remainder of the treasures were hidden. He was eventually imprisoned. The lost treasures are still to be found.
Here it is. One of the victims, Kenneth Butler, was involved in the story of the stolen Hellenistic treasures. A visit to his pawn shop should tell me more.
All right, so our next. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, that's the story. So we have a key here. The metal door key taken from the dead body of Kenneth Butler. So we can head to the pawn shop to do some further investigation. But we are going to leave it right there, folks. As a matter of fact, maybe we'll just head over there. Alright, so here we are. Holmes. Alright, so let me, we can't, oh! That was my wife. She came in to open the windows because it's very hot in here. It's California weather, and running a computer, recording video, that just generates a lot of heat. Okay, so here we are on the back alleys, and this is where we are going to leave it here, folks. We were going to check out that Kenneth Butler's shop. When we come back, appreciate you joining me today. I can see it right there. Appreciate you joining me on this episode. I play very spastically, so if you like this kind of spastic gameplay, make sure you click on subscribe and click on that bell to get notified when I upload new content. And I hope, folks, to see you back here on the next episode when we enter Butler's shop and make some further investigations while Mr. Watson there hangs outside. Again, thank you very much. Until next time, have a good one.